everybody, it's me, Laura, and today we're going to be doing the spiral canes. And just so you know, I did one video on this long time ago when I first started doing videos, and I looked back on it and I was like, oh, we could do so much better. So right here, I'm bringing in a piece of black. This has been rolled out on my #1 setting on my Atlas pasta machine. And as you can tell here, I'm trying to get a nice rectangular piece here. Once I have that, I'm going to bring in some green clay. It's also going to be rolled out on my Atlas pasta machine on a #1 setting. I call this my 1-to-1 kind of spiral cane. This is not my favorite cane, and a lot of times the reason for that is because my black will overtake color every time, right? And if you have half black, half whatever color you have, generally that color, no matter what, even when you reduce this cane down, that black becomes so prominent you really don't see the color as much. So I like to try a little bit different ratio, but I wanted to show you here, this is how you do it. You place the color on top of the black, or you could even do two colors together. It's totally up to you. But I'm doing black with the green, and then you just roll it right up and you have your spiral, and that's your first spiral right there. Now you could tell right here that my clay kind of smudged down into my spiral a little bit. Use some baby powder or cornstarch as a release agent. I found that very helpful as I went on into this video. Anyways, take some black here. This black has now been rolled out on my #2 setting, and then the green remains at a #1. So I'm stepping it down. So the black is going to get thinner as we go, and eventually I'll be showing you all the thicknesses all the way down to the setting of a #4 on my Atlas pasta machine. I could go beyond this. I mean, I've got like 8 or 9 settings, but I thought, no, let's just do this, because a lot of times when I do my cane work, I reduce it down naturally anyway, and if I go beyond a 4, eventually I'm going to start to lose that black line in the spiral itself. So 4 or 5 is generally my cutoff point before I'm like, okay, I'm not even going to reduce this. I'm just going to have to take that spiral as it is. Okay, so right here I'm just cutting a slice from each of these canes. The left one on the very far left, that's going to be the 1-to-1. So, you know, the black and the green are the same thickness. The second one, of course, it's stepped down to a #2, a #3, and a #4. And really you notice so much the difference that that black line makes. I mean, you know, like I said, when I reduce this down where it's like the same thickness on both the green and the black likes to take over. But when I get down to a #4 setting with my black, the green is still there. It's still very, very much in the game, and you see, to me, the pattern just so much better. So keep that in mind when you're creating your spiral canes, and really the thickness of the clay that you're using. All right, so my first video that I ever did really addressed this right here. It really featured the double spiral, but I thought I'd just go ahead and do it again for you guys. What the heck, right? So I'm using my magenta and yellow, and I'm just doing my plain, you know, putting the two pieces together and creating that blend as I go. When I'm doing my blends, guys, generally I fold it over, and then I like to fold it twice. I've really gotten impatient when it comes to blending my colors, and I find no problem in doing this. To me, it just hurries up that process, or makes that process go a little bit quicker when you can double fold it, if you will. Anyway, right here I'm finally starting to get my blend, and once I get my blend, I'm going to elongate out this piece. So I'm going to make a lot longer of a piece right here, and then I'm going to cut the one side flush. From there, I'm going to make sure I lay that out, and this was done on a #1 now, okay? On this particular cane, I went 1-to-1. So I was like, okay, the black clay is also the thickness of a #1 setting. When I started doing, I didn't think about it. I was like, Laura, come on, what are you doing, you know? But it does show you, when you see me roll this thing up, that the black really is very dominant when you have it in a state where you roll this up with the color and it's the same thickness. So again, I do stress, when you are doing your spiral canes, check to see what thickness that black clay is on, because it makes a huge difference in the look of it in the end. Now, I do want to say this doesn't look bad, okay? The one thing I forgot to say is the reason why I do stress trying to make sure you have maybe a thinner layer of black than the color is because at this point, before I've reduced it, it looks fine. But when you reduce this down, to me it seems like it can sometimes get more muddied. The other thing that I want to mention with this particular cane is that I love the blend in a spiral form. This is such a dynamic cane to make, and especially now when I start creating my double spiral. So what I'm doing here is I'm putting a magenta log right at the very bottom there, and then I bring in my acrylic roller and I'm going to start flattening out this cane. This is a pretty big cane here. I have not reduced it down. We're talking probably 1.5 inches to 2 inches in diameter, about 1 inch tall. And as I start to flatten this out, this is a nice size to really start to do that, I want to say, double spiral. You really, trying to do it with a smaller cane is a little bit tougher because it's so tiny. This gives you a little bit more clay to work with. And mind you, it is going to be a big double spiral when you get it done, so you can reduce that down if you wanted. But I also wanted to make it fairly large so you guys could see what I'm doing. So as I'm flattening this, I'm going to create one side here into a point. And once I get that into a point, I'm going to start to roll it up from that point all the way in. And this will eventually not only give me my double spiral, but you cut off that slice, it creates a really nice dynamic that I absolutely love. Okay, so here I've got that double spiral rolled up, and then I'm putting another log down. I figure if I want to go ahead and have a registration mark on the outside so I know kind of where this thing ended, I'll have that. I'm also bringing in some mud clay or even some black clay, and I created this little channel with my roller and placed my cane down on it. So this way then the cane itself, or I should say the slice, when I go to cut it, will not warp so much. And you could see, wow, that I just love this cane. It's one of my favorites. Oh. Okay, so the multi-Skinner blend spiral is really, it's your blend in a brick, and this thing is about 1.25 by 1 inch tall. If you want to make it wider when you make that particular Skinner blend block, do so. It really does help quite a bit. And I'm trying to take it from my longest side as much as possible. I thin it out on my Atlas pasta machine on the number 1 setting. I bring in some of my black, and this black was rolled out actually on a number 4 setting. So it was definitely a thinner piece. And this way then I'm going to see more of that particular, with the color in it than just the black. So again, keeping that size thing, in mind. And then go ahead and cut off another slice, run these through your pasta machine. This helps elongate out to that Skinner blend a little bit, so you'll get a little bit taller of a cane once you get it all together. But you're going to be placing these side by side by side, where you're going to have the white to purple, and so on. Now that you have the purple and white laying over your black piece, you're going to take that black that I have at the very end. You're going to cut off a little bit more of that black and then curl that black right over the end there of the white. And then just start to roll it up. And this is going to give you your multi-Skinner blend spiral cane. All right, so when I started doing these spiral canes, I kind of got to a point where I was like going, what if we did this? What if we, I was like, uh-oh, the mind was going. I thought, we have got to do this, right? So I created a Skinner blend of purple and white here. And then I decided, let's go ahead, and I took a slice of my black and white stack. And the stack itself was made on a number 1 setting, so the black was on a 1 and the white was on a 1. And then I trimmed this up. I also wrapped the black and white in a little thin layer of black, which was done on a number 4 setting on my Atlas pasta machine. Now, this gives me a little bit of an outline on the outside of that black and white. And the reason why is because I thought, what if we did kind of a stamen type thing into the Skinner blend itself? A little bit of a stamened petal, if you will. And just so you know, that black and white stamen piece, that thing was about, I want to say, 1/8 of an inch wide when I first started, okay? And then the overall purple and white cane when I first started, it was about 1 inch to 1.25 inches tall by about 3/4 or so wide, and then it was wrapped in a layer of black on a number 1 setting. I then cut in the middle of that Skinner blend and then just threw in that black and white stamen bit, okay? Place that in there and then take the other piece of the purple and white, match it up so I got the nice line going on and everything. And then from there I thought, yeah, let's go ahead now and compress it so that we can add in another registration line. And part of that was because, you know, when I go to reduce this, because I need to reduce this down. And if you reduce down any kind of cane, you got to have a registration line as to where's your top, where's your bottom, some kind of reference point for you. Not to mention the fact, even though I used a red here, which actually it makes it look kind of cool. I like the registration line acting as a part of the design overall. So it's kind of a nice compliment. And then what I'm doing, of course, I'm just reducing this down, and I'm going to reduce it down pretty far. I want to say when I got this thing down, it was about 1/2 of an inch at max, 1/2 inch tall, okay? And then I want to say the width of this thing was probably 1/8 of an inch. So it wasn't very big at all. And the reason why is because, as you can see, I'm elongating out this whole entire petal cane thing. I'm going to be cutting this thing into about 8 or 9 different lengths. I cut it in half at first, and then I thought, let's go ahead, see if I could cut that into another 4 sections. And I did the same with the other length as well. So since I had already wrapped this cane in black, it was like, okay, don't really want to wrap it in black again. So I'm using red this time. So I thought, let's just go dynamic. What the heck? Do something really different, right? So this red has been rolled out again on a number 4 setting on my Atlas pasta machine. And I'm taking one of these pieces and I'm pinching the point of that particular petal type, okay? We're going to lay that down at the very top. We're going to start our you might say, our rolling up of this cane on that end. So all the other pieces will fall in line. And mind you, I'm putting them where, you know, it's like white to purple, white to purple. Is, you know, if you want to change this up, let's say you want to go ahead and take 2 pieces and line them up where the purples are right together. Do it. Have some fun with this. See what you get. You'll never know until you try. Okay, now that I have this thing all together, I brought in my acrylic roller and I needed to flatten this out just a little bit more. So it's going to get a little thinner. And part of this is because you need this thing thin enough that you can roll it up into that spiral. So if you feel like it's still just a little bit too thick, and it might be, just go ahead and make sure you have that pinch point. Use your acrylic roller and make sure it's thin enough so that you can roll it up into that nice spiral. So as you could tell right there, you got a little hint of this cane. It is pretty cool. I loved it. I wanted to go ahead and put a registration mark on it with that purple. Sometimes because, you know, I will want to go ahead and add it into other canes possibly, or like, you know, maybe make it into a pinched point. But right here, I'm bringing in my blade. I want to show you guys, I'm using cornstarch or even baby powder, depending upon which one you have. And I'm putting powder on that blade, so this way then when I go to cut down and through that particular cane, that it will slice cleanly and it will not smudge. It won't grab onto the blade. I've noticed, especially with my older blades, it seems to be a thing that clay likes to grab on. So if you're having trouble trying to get a clean, nice, beautiful slice from your cane, and you need something to help you along, you can either use your baby powder or your cornstarch and just kind of lightly coat your blade with that. Or you can even use if you've got a spray water bottle, spray your blade really quickly and then make that slice. And you're gonna find that you're gonna have such a better result, and it'll make a huge difference on that slice, just like it did here for me. All right, so now we're going to start making another fun spiral cane. And I had to bring, I'm sorry. I love my yellow and a magenta type Skinner blend. I love that, and especially when I can make it into that little brick. And of course, you guys know how much I love my stacks. So I thought, let's put the two together. That's right. We're going to go ahead and make a spiral using the two of them. Now on that stack was done on a #1 setting on my Atlas pasta machine. So that's the thickness of those. And you'll notice right there, it's 1/8 of an inch wide. I'm going to run that back through my pasta machine on a #1 setting because I want the thickness to be all the same. The same with that Skinner blend. That slice, it was also about 1/8 of an inch wide. I ran it back through my machine on a #1 setting, and we're just going to be placing slices of this that have been rolled back through the pasta machine on a #1 setting, and then lining them up as I go. Once I get them all lined up, I'll take a little bit of that black, I'm probably going to trim it down a little bit, and then roll that up on that yellow, and then continue to roll it until I get my spiral. All right, so now we're going to have a little fun, and we're going to create our first pendant piece, starting with a little piece of mud, okay, mud clay, which has a diameter of about 1 inch, right? And I kind of pushed it into this teardrop form, and I was thinking about, I thought, no, let's bring in the Kyoker cutters, right? My basic forms. I started thinking about, and I almost went with that one with the point because I love that one. But I thought, no, let's go ahead and go with this particular triangle piece from that basic Kyoker cutter set and use my deli sheet to get a nice clean cut down into that mud. Once I had that, I took the extra off. I used my blade to kind of clean up the overall thing. What I liked about it though was that it was a nice kind of humped piece. It was pretty thick, it was pretty big, but I thought this could be really fun to play with. I also then brought in my simple green spirals, the ones I had made at the very beginning. I wanted to see what I could really do with just that simple spiral. I again brought in some of my mud clay. I made that channel with my acrylic roller so I could place my cane down into it and cut a nice clean slice. Once I had that, I went ahead, placed that down on this pendant piece, kind of at an angle on this particular pendant. I wanted to do part of it like this and then use a little bit of our metallic acrylic paints in concert with this spiral. I thought it would be a nice complement to each other and just see how it would go. Now from here, I'm going to go ahead and just take that whole upper part of this pendant piece. I'm going to cover in my spiral canes. I'm going to kind of have it conform. I am not running these spirals back through my pasta machine, so I'm trying to get them cut as thinly as possible. Although that being said, you want it to be a fairly even piece. So if there's a way to measure it out, like if you've got a ruler or whatever to measure out your cane slices, go ahead and do so. And then cut your slices so that they're fairly evenly cut. Now, mind you, I've been doing this for a while. So cutting slices in polymer clay, I get pretty even. I don't really have to think about it. I'm also bringing in a slab here of my black clay, which was run through the pasta machine on a number 4 setting. And part of the reason why I'm covering this mud piece with the black is because I've got those cane slices on there, and I really like that. That is so much fun. But it also keeps or creates a uneven ridge, if you will. So I'm bringing the black in to create where it levels it up, where it's the same level or close to the same level of what all those slices are. Now, the one thing I should have done right at the very beginning was put the hook in or the hanging piece for my pendant right away. So when you make this pendant piece, put that in first instead of like what I'm doing here where I had my slices on there. This is the one no. I wish I would have done that before because I had to actually go back in on this piece after handling it so much. I had to replace one of my little cane slices. So put the little hook in first. It'll make it a lot easier moving forward. Just like an FYI and like, oh, Laura messed up here. Anyway, I'm also bringing some more strands of that black clay and I'm just laying it across here. Just a fun featured piece that I can use later on. This is where I'm kind of using my canes. My canes kind of start to meet my free form sculpting that I like to do. Oh my goodness, because you know how I love to do that stuff. Well, I'm going to bring in my needle tool here in a little bit. I'm going to start creating little ridges and indents into that black clay. And this way then when I come back in, that'll be the area where I use those metallic acrylic paints. I also plan to bring in a little metallic piece that I'm going to cut actually into smaller pieces, believe it or not, and add this into the pendant. Once I get that all done though, I'll go ahead and bake that piece once I have it all put together at 275 degrees to 300. And because this is such a thick piece, I'm going to probably bake this thing for about 20 to 25 minutes. But really from here, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to let you guys just watch my hands talk as I complete up this really fun, simple spiral pendant. All right, so my second pendant, I'm going to be using the Skinner Blend one where I had lined them all up and then rolled it up. And I thought this is also kind of a little bit more simple when it comes to a spiral cane, but I thought, we're still going to have some fun with this. Anyways, I took some of that mud clay, I went ahead and rolled that out into a ball. It was about 1 inch in diameter, made it into that little pointed teardrop piece. And this time around, I decided not to use the Kyoker cutters. I was just going to go with my formed piece. Sometimes they're the more pleasing anyway. But I thought, let's go ahead and do that. And then I'm using my scissors here as I'm wrapping this particular piece of mud in my black. That black sheet was done on a number 4 setting on my Atlas pasta machine. And I'm just kind of trimming it up, and then I'm going to form it. If you want to use your burnisher, you can, to go ahead and get all those lines in there to kind of, meld into each other. For me, I just find using my hands works the best. Once I have this all formed up though, I'm going to bring in that purple and white spiral cane, and I'm going to start cutting slices from it. But before I do that, again, remember, take that little eye pin and sink this thing in. I did it right this time around. Laura didn't do it the right way. Yeah, okay. Anyway, hook it in, and really, that's kind of how I'm starting to think of this. You hook this into this piece where it's almost like, I feel like I'm hooking that minnow when I was a kid. Anyway, sorry, I know, off tangent. Bringing that eye pin in, sinking it into that piece of mud, and then bringing in that spiral cane. Again, like I said, we'll be cutting slices off of this, and then I'm going to do kind of a similar diagonal, like the top part is going to have that spiral cane on top, and then I'm going to be forming up and creating a little bit of that free form sort of thing on the bottom part of this pendant. Now, here's the thing. Right here, you're seeing me with this acrylic roller, and I'm making this into a square cane. So I'm taking that spiral that I had, and I'm creating more of a square form. This is a lot easier to work with than with that circular piece. My first pendant, there with the circular spiral, it works, but it's harder to, sometimes it's harder to design with. Whereas if you have a square cane, it's much easier to design with, especially when it comes to jewelry. I mean, this will lay nice and flat where I get a nice line coming off that spiral. I can have that spiral all going in the same direction if I wish. It's really, really nice to have that square cane. I like square canes. They're fun. What can I say? Anyways, I'm going to line that up. And you can also tell too, when you have a square cane, not only does it line up really well, but if you want to do the next row, you're not going to have a whole lot of gaps in between. Mind you, on the other one where I had the circular rounded kind of spiral, I had to fill in a few of the little gaps with some little balls, and and it doesn't always, sometimes it looks okay. Sometimes I'm like, I could have probably done that a little bit better. But in this regard, I thought, let's go ahead and make it a little easier on myself and make it more of a square form when it came to that spiral cane. So that's kind of what I'm doing right here. Once I get that done though, again, I'm going to bring in a little bit of that free form kind of sculpt on the bottom part of this pendant. I'm going to bring in, once I get it all formed up and I get all my indents and everything put in, I'll bake it, then we'll come into the paint and finish it up. But from here, again, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to let you guys watch my hands talk as I complete up this second and final spiral pendant piece. All right, so this is the end result of creating my spirals and my pendant pieces using those spirals. Please use this for study and reference. And if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. I'm always wondering what you're thinking. Otherwise, I'm sending out my biggest hugs to each of you, and I hope you have a fantastic day.